At the borders. Each day, we commute to the soft borders of ourselves, where over again, we meet and cross the edges that tempt us to shelter in the onlyness of our skin, our story, our shadow, our sameness, to stay hidden within these havens where we cling to the crib songs of youthful bliss and safety. With what trust we choose to immigrate, traveling through customs of hello and how are you, of nods and the gestures of charity that signal to other human bodies in transit that they are not alone. Each day we yield ourselves as a frontier that others may traverse. We carve ourselves as paths that others may pilgrimage and make our hearts a table of hospitality. Each day we make of ourselves an invitation to be open through the myriad tributaries of our most intimate and even impersonal encounters. Our feeble language welcomes and grounds unexpected guests from the door of our mouths, and with our smallest kindnesses, we tend the hearths, warming the blistered hands and feet of the road weary. With our service, we are host of bright possibilities. And in our selflessness, we are most kin to light. In this marriage of pilgrim and pilgrimage, we are changed as we cross the borders of ourselves and yield to new beckonings of discovery and daring invitations to go beyond the ordinary. Each day when we rise with will and grace, journeying into territories unknown, trusting that what we have been given is enough. Our hearts are sturdy enough to love. The wisdom of our minds can curate the simplest of miracles for those in need. Our bodies can be temples of agency. Our hands can widen to hold out for hope. We trust that we are enough. And in this trust, we are transformed. Even as we fling open our hearts to both the madness and the mystery, even as we become molded by moments of clarity and confusion, with the calm and the changing moods of our world, and by the grief and the gracious gifts that greet us all on the path. It is in this story that we are willing to be alive. We are still ready to be human. We are still willing to be here, and that we become living signs of hope. On the other side of our borders, we meet the mystery that makes us, the task that transforms us, the grace that befalls and then upholds us miraculously. We know that we are all essential workers, calling in the outcasts from their hiding places, the minoritized and the marginalized into the great gathering chorus and feast table of belonging. We call the diminished back into the dignity of their humanity. And even we, as we are calling to others, we call ourselves not to be separate from this sacred circle. Even in times of war and famine, pestilence and plague, we are called to trust in our survivable nature, to believe that the person next to us is truly our neighbor, to trust in the goodnesses of our earthly and divine nature. We are called as best we can to keep our eyes alight with wonder, our lungs filled with the breaths that bless. We can trust that we can call a kind of home wherever our bodies are. We trust that this place, this space, this here and this now is where we are meant to be and where we belong. We can trust that we are always crossing the borders and thresholds that will provide what we most need for our soul's expansion and awakening. No matter how delightful or difficult the journey, we are here. This moment has been waiting, and our entry has made it whole, even as we are being made whole by this moment's entry into us. Thank you.
Thank you, Manan, for such a powerful word to gather us for our annual roundtable offering. And I just want us to kind of sit with we are enough. And thank you for calling us to trust that we can transgress borders that separate us, and that we truly can enter into relationships of radical wellness. Thank you. So I want to officially welcome us to our annual roundtable offering, and our theme is Radical Wellness, the Saving Power of Relationships. And we have a wonderful group of partners that are with us. So thank you to Aurora Advocate Health, as well as Fly Radical Therapy and the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference for being with us and helping us to really model what it means not only to cultivate community, but to say that no one organization can do it alone. And so these partnerships are so incredibly fruitful, but also necessary. So thank you for your presence here. And also thank you for all that have taken time out of your schedule, our board members, staff, and all of our supporters. Thank you for taking this time to be together. Just one brief point of business for our board and our members. We are in the midst of filling vacancies on our nominating committee. And so by the end of June, we will have a new slate of officers to present. So again, that's our only point of business for today. At this time, we're going to have a brief video to showcase more of our current programs. And Megan, do you have that for us?
Yes, one moment. I'm trying to pull it up. Thank you everyone for waiting.
No problem.
let me just add a couple of numbers to what you've just seen in terms of highlights, and welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you're here this morning. In 2021, the kitchen served over 100 meals per day to the community. And we make sure that that is a hot meal, that it's a balanced meal, and that anyone who comes to the door has access to that meal. What you may not know is that we also provided meals to one of our local community organizations we partner with, Family Matters. We provided 100 meals a week, so about 4,000 meals for their after-school program. Again, making sure that our children have full bellies in order to be able to do the work of getting their homework together, doing some leadership development and the other work that Family Matters does. We also hosted the Produce Mobile that serves anywhere between 75 to 100 households that are served every third Monday. And that can be a household of 2 and it can be a household of 8. And so we are making sure that folks are having access to fresh produce. And as some of you know, we started during COVID a weekly grocery delivery. This is a new thing and it's actually growing. We're getting more and more calls of seniors, folks who are homebound, folks who have challenges getting out to get groceries. They call, they let us know what their needs are, what their allergies are, what their preferences are. And in many ways that we can, with our few volunteers, we have this rhythm where we pack the boxes and volunteers come to the door, they don't come in, and they drive them on over. And so we continue to do that work and serve an average of 71 households a week with that work. And of course, we continue to pass out PPE and masks and all that other stuff. And we've got lots of stuff happening with the Genesis Project. And one, I think there might be a flyer that might be shown later, is that we're having plant sales every week. And so go to our Facebook page or go to our website and get more information about that. But if you're interested in supporting the Genesis Project, and if you love plants, we have anything from herbs to actual food plants to house plants. And some are really tiny in the planting, like if you want to plant them in your garden, and some are ready to hang in your home. So those are a couple of highlights that's not related to what we're going to talk about later. Thank you.
Now we're going to hear again from Manon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so our theme for today is very, very beautiful and evocative. I mean, even as we have experienced the last couple of years of this COVID, this time of COVID that we are living in. And I'm so thankful that A Just Harvest is emphasizing radical wellness and well-being. And it is so important to the sustainability of our communities and our work together. And so we are going to model wellness and well-being today. I would like to invite you all into just a little meditation. Sometimes when we approach and when we come in these spaces, we bring our heads and we bring our intellects. And so we also just want to ground our bodies and our hearts in this space as well. And so I'd like to just invite us for a moment to wherever you are, if you can get in a comfortable position. The folks that I see on the screen are sitting down, and even if you are not showing your face, you don't have to be sitting down, but wherever you are, just want to invite you. You can be standing, sitting, or even lying down. The most important thing is that you just feel relaxed and alert. And make sure that you have some openness in the front of your body so you can roll your shoulders back. Or if you're lying down, you can allow your shoulders to really relax into the floor. And you want to have some uprightness or length in your spine to promote wakefulness and alertfulness. And I want to invite you to soften your face, even around the jaw. And I want to invite you to gently close your eyes. And this balanced posture of being both relaxed and alert, being both soft and open, is the beginning of our embodied awareness together. And I want you to take a deep breath and just notice how your body is feeling in this moment. You don't have to change anything about the mind or your thoughts or the heart, your emotions, or even your body. You're just feeling the sensations and noticing what's happening. How does your body feel right now? And to deepen into that question, what sensations are you experiencing? Where may there be tightness or tension? Where is there ease or relaxation? Just notice what's here. And just continue to settle into this embodied awareness. And maybe there are thoughts or emotions coming up. And just let everything be here for now. And now I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath through the nose. And as you exhale, you can even make a sighing sound. And you can do that a couple times, a couple rounds. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And as you exhale, you can make a sighing sound. As you do this, release any tension in the body as you breathe in and out. Opening the front of the body. And as you breathe out, really softening and relaxing. And I even invite you to just notice your abdomen. So many times we hold constriction in the core of our bodies and cut off our breath, which is our life force. So allow the breath to come to its natural rhythm. And just take a moment in silence to notice your bodily sensations. You don't have to think about the body, but just really feel the sensations or vibrations. And now see if you can feel the contact with what's supporting your body right now. It could be a chair, a cushion, a bed, the floor, and ground beneath you. Just really sense into your feet or seat, allowing yourself to feel grounded. I was reading last night even about how the earth itself electrifies our body through our feet. And so that there are currents flowing through us from the earth. And so just continue to sense the connection with what's underneath you and bring awareness to the pressure or the weight of your body. What is that sensation like? And thoughts or concerns might be coming up, and this isn't a problem. You know, the mind will do what it does, think about the past or the future, or comment on the present and want to rush and say, okay, what's next? But the body is always present in the moment. So when this thinking happens, just gently escort your awareness to rest back into an awareness of the body. And this is a practice. This is a practice. So it's not something that we're trying to perfect. It's something that we're simply practicing. And now bring your awareness to the breath as it flows in and out of your body. You might want to take 1 or 2 deep breaths in and out through your nose again to connect you to this process that's always happening. And you can notice your belly rising and falling as you breathe in and out. And if you're having trouble connecting to the sensation, you can place one or both hands over your belly button to feel the belly rising on the inhale and falling on the exhale. And if the breath is hard for you to follow, you can simply rest your awareness on the body's contact with what is supporting you right now, or in any part of the body that brings you a sense of ease or connection. And just continue to stay with the breath, noticing the inhale and the exhale. Embodied awareness, I've said that a few times, is a way for us to stay with our experience by using the body, the breath, and any sensory experience as a way to connect to the present moment. We are here right now in this space. We are meant to be right here, right now in this space. And we can allow our body to ground us in awareness. So I'm just going to invite you a couple of more rounds to keep noticing the breath and resting in this embodied awareness. And on these last couple of breaths, as we end this meditation, take a moment to simply express gratitude toward yourself for taking the time to reconnect to your body and your breath, and a sense of groundedness as a way to create spaciousness, ease, and rootedness that you are worthy of. Thank you for taking the time to cultivate this practice. You can open your eyes now, and you can begin to sort of move your hands and your feet, and maybe stretch if you need to, and allow yourself to reconnect with your surroundings. One last deep breath. Thank you for taking the time to cultivate this practice.
I'm gonna get.
Thank you so much, Manan, for grounding us, for centering us, and for reminding us this isn't just about let's get busy talking about the work, but how do we embody the work, right? How do we embody wellness? So thank you so much for that reminder, because in my head, I'm like, okay, what's next? I'm checking off the, the list, and the reminder is just so necessary. Before we move into our roundtable conversation, I just want to give one more shout out of thanks to the board of directors, to the staff, to the team members of HJust Harvest, all of our volunteers, which right now is not many, again, because of COVID, and we're trying to be very, very mindful. But there are a core few, as I mentioned, that help pack boxes, and a core few that roll up their cars and deliver boxes. Our program has its own setup. And of course, we continue to do the organizing work. And so anytime you want to do some calls or sign on to petitions or letters, let us know. There's ways for you to connect around that as well. But we could not do this work without partnership, without collaboration, without our generous supporters in this work. And we know that we are because you are. And I just wanted to add my thanks to Dr. Ringer's thanks. And that's why we're having this conversation. And that's why we're talking about the importance of partnerships in this work. As we expand our work into wellness, or expand our wellness work, I should say, because we've been doing it, making sure someone has a nutritious meal is doing wellness work, right? Making sure that you can walk along someone who's lost a loved one is doing wellness work. So we've been doing it, but being more intentional and again, a little more holistic in our approach and in our partnerships, it is why we're here. And some of you may know we have a vision of a new facility sometime down the line, but COVID-19 didn't wait till we had a new property, and the rise of COVID-19 sure enough didn't wait till we had some new space, right? And the stuff that's happening in our communities around economic violence, around domestic violence, addiction, all the things, none of those things stopped while we wait to raise money for a building. And so the work continues, and we're reminded that we have to be ready now, right? The radicalness of this is opening up a space so a therapist can come in and meet with somebody, because it's important for both the therapist and the community member that they stay in community, right? Without any worrying about, okay, it's not neat enough, we don't have a shingle out, we don't have a sign out, no, let's just do it. When someone passes away and needs someone to accompany the family, it's not about, okay, we don't have, all the right, this, that, and the other. No, we do it. And so now we're celebrating that, building on that. And I want to say, as I am in my 20th year, I am trying to use this opportunity of celebration to really engage others in this wellness work so that we can sustain it, do it collaboratively, and then make sure we can sustain it. So tying all those pieces together for me is not me, it's the Holy Spirit, it's God, it's the universe lighting things up, because our community is worthy, Manon. And we are enough to do this work right now, A Just Harvest and board members and team, right? And all of our partners. And so I am so grateful for your yes. As I mentioned earlier, there may have been something going on with Dr. Carruthers. She's faithful. She's always, she said yes. And so if she's not here, something must have come up. But our partnership, if Dr. Ringer wants to speak to our partnership with the Samuel Dewitt Proctor Conference later on, we can do that. But we're going to just start our conversation. And we want to hear from you, who you are, what do you do, and why you think this relationship is important. So it's an opportunity to highlight your work and our connection in 3 to 5 minutes. Amen. And we're going to start with Dorian.
Thank you so much. I feel so good. I had to go jump on my yoga ball because I feel more grounded that way. I could touch the floor. I couldn't do that with the chair. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you, Marilyn, and all of you all. I'm just excited to be here to talk a little bit about Fly Radical Therapy and the partnership building with A Just Harvest that does incredible work. And Marilyn, I'm just, your fangirl forever. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor. That's what LCPC stands for. I have been a therapist, a licensed therapist for the past 4 years, a clinical therapist for this will be my 9th year. Working in community mental health has been a passion of mine. My background is in Latinx counseling and multicultural counseling, more specifically Black therapy or Black psychology and Latinx psychology. With that, most of the community I've served have been the Black community and the Latinx community. Folks a little bit more nuanced, the queer community as well within these past 5 years. 2 years ago, right before the pandemic hit the globe, I started a private practice called Fly Radical Therapy. Fly stands for First Love Yourself. And radical therapy is a recognized therapy approach by the American Psychological Association that essentially understands and welcomes how systemic oppression impacts mental health and wellness, and also how we get to the root of healing. This therapy approach welcomes centering the global majority. So I'm teeter-tottering with BIPOC or Black, Indigenous, people of color, and utilizing more often the global majority as a term to recognize who I am serving. And the focus is loving yourself, because of how historically what systemic oppression does is create these ideas, thoughts, and behaviors about hating yourself and doing things or thinking things that perhaps are unhealthy and unwell. Part of the practice, or the practice includes loving yourself through collective social liberation, awareness, healing for yourself and with each other, and helping others to get there. So part of this collective understanding of radical therapy is that we heal together. We don't heal alone. Historically, the westernized approach to therapy has been individual based, and we include that, right? Because we need to start with ourselves in order to continue to move forward, but we don't do it alone. We do it together. So I also, part of the therapy practice is inspired by liberation, womanist, and multicultural psychology. Part of the practice includes working together in community groups. So I also run monthly poetry healing circles, and I also turn them into series where we utilize the expressive art of poetry, which I love, to give ourselves free space to process together in community. That networking space is called Healing Jodonas. And Jodonas is a Puerto Rican word. I'm Puerto Rican, from Chicago and the suburbs, so I don't forget the suburbs. But the Jodona word is usually a word that is not a compliment. It means an agitator. So I'm an agitator of healing. I believe that we need equitable access to healing, and that's what Healing Jodonas is about. It's healing together, creating space where there was not space, and finding ways that we can talk about unhealthy or unwell systemic issues while we heal together. Talk about how that makes us feel and what we can do and how we can activate ourselves. Lastly, I want to share that last year in collaboration with the Honeycomb Network, where I house my practice, and I'm also collaborating with Just Harvest and also seeing clients there. I and the network developed a pilot series for youth and young adults called the Heal Unacademy. Heal stands for Honey, Education, and Love. And we invest in young people 16 to 19 years old to participate in a 4-week workshop series where they learn about 4 tiers of basic mental wellness that includes understanding feeling words, how to communicate, 2, understanding how the body holds emotions, 3, how we understand circles in our environment, systemic issues, and how that impacts us, and 4, how we understand and incorporate the spirit, and how spiritual wellness is a really important part of how we practice that holistic wellness. So that's happening. This month of May is our second spring cohort. We pay youth to participate each week. We also have facilitators who are mental health practitioners paired with wellness practitioners like yoga practitioners, poets, photographers, etc. And we're just excited to continue to move forward with the collaboration with Just Harvest to continue to build with community. This is all happening in Humboldt Park, and I'm so excited to find ways and how we can continue to build here in Rogers Park and build again with each other for communities of need. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. And I welcome, all of the collaboration because it's definitely needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorian. Thank you. We're going to have time at the end for questions and answers. I forgot to mention that earlier. But let me just add to what Dorian has mentioned. So yes, our partnership really will be providing space for Dorian and others who are doing this important work to be able to come and meet with our clients, but also meet with folks that we are engaging with, because our commitment is to provide wraparound services to the folks that we're working with. So this is being built out of not what we saw, not only what we recognized as a need, but what we were being told by our folks, our apprentices in particular, or our patrons who are really struggling with some things and need some additional support. So, and I do want to say, and I'm really proud of it, in June, we're going to do a 4-week series here in the community with a very targeted group of folks. And it's being hosted by a community business owner. He owns a CBD shop up the street. And it's going to be called the Puff Puff Pass Poetry Healing Circle. And it is exactly what it sounds like. And it's important to be able to create a space where folks feel that they can come as they are, and really, as Dorian has mentioned, find some ways to process and to release and to just not have to like watch their back, even if it's just for an hour, right? So thank you, Dorian, and I'm so excited, looking forward and towards continued partnership. I'm going to call on the Reverend Dr. Kirsten Peachy from Advocate Aurora to tell us a little bit about their work in our partnership. And she'll also loop in Amy as well, who's here.
Yes. Hey, everyone. Kirsten Peachy with Advocate Aurora Health in our Faith and Health Partnership programs. Really glad to be with you here today. I use she, her pronouns. And Manan, Dorian, oh my gosh, wow. You have, that would be enough, just what you guys did so far. My. Advocate Aurora Health is a large healthcare system. We are affiliated, at least on the advocate side, with the United Church of Christ and with the Lutheran Church, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And so we have, ever since we were founded over 100 years ago, we've had relationships with people of faith and congregations. And so our work is really about partnering with faith communities and faith-based entities to support the health and well-being of people in the community, particularly in creating health equity and really working toward health equity and addressing those social conditions that impact people's health. And one of the things that, that we've become really clear about along the way is that if we're going to do this work, if we're going to be able to really kind of create transformational change, it's really about radical relationships, that the way we're going to get there is through radical relationships. And so, we're a little subversive part of Advocate Aurora Health, this big healthcare system that wants to talk a lot about other kinds of a medical model way of addressing health. And we want to talk about relationships. And so we are in that way always being invited and challenged by A Just Harvest and other partners that work in the space, to really understand as much as we can about relationships. And that we are enough, that the relationships that we have with each other, and by that I mean not only interpersonally, but also the systemic and structural relationships that we have with each other, when they are good, people are healthy. So we like to say, loving communities are healthy communities. And that is exactly what A Just Harvest is working on. So I always like to share a little quote by one of my thought leaders in this work, Gary Gunderson, who says, "The cutting edge of health and wholeness does not lie up some unexplored river, over some academic horizon, in some clever new management paradigm, out amid some cosmic mystery. The cutting edge is in between us, among those who literally share our breath and water, our food and our shelter. The cutting edge of health ministries is not technical, but relational, how we care for each other." And so that's as we enter into this partnership, and let me say, Marilyn and I have been talking for years about what can we, how can we bring this together? So we really see ourselves as partners. What that looks like exactly, we're not sure yet. That's part of the conversation. That's part of our investment, is to say, we're not necessarily coming in with these things without being in conversation with everyone, including patrons, people in the community, about what is needed and what role can we play. But having said that, I'll just say very briefly, and then I want to turn it over to Amy McNicholas, who's my colleague who works specifically in our faith and mental health area, as well as some of our leads, manages our programs in Illinois. One of the things that we do is we work through what we call a neighborhood model. So in that model, we work collaboratively. We embed staff in specific neighborhoods that are identified through what Advocate Healthcare calls our community strategy. So really identifying communities that are most in need of work with around inequities, and work with a network of congregations and other community-based organizations on strategies for addressing those health issues. And so we're doing that in South Chicago, we're doing that in Avondale, and we have faith community nurses and other team members that we have in those communities to work in those spaces. So that's one of the ways that we're really trying to kind of get very kind of community-based in the work that we do. We also do a lot of work around trauma and resilience. We do all the work that we do, pretty much we do collaboratively, so that we're really instrumental in helping to found the Chicagoland Trauma Informed Congregations Network. So that's a network of people of faith that are looking at how do we as people of faith understand and work with issues of trauma across the whole spectrum of where and how that occurs, as well as looking at the power of resilience and what it is that we do within faith communities that helps to support resilience and hope and healing, and really claiming that and trying to engage congregations to be as healthy as possible around that. And then the other thing, other areas that might be possibilities for us to work in partnership. We have a large hypertension initiative through Advocate Aurora Health. How could we bring that into connection with the folks in the A Just Harvest service area? We know that hypertension is certainly impacted by the food that we eat and by whether we're able to exercise, but we also know that it's really impacted by our life experiences and all the stuff as Manon and Dorian talked about that we carry in our bodies through the experiences that we have. We have a trauma recovery center that provides free therapy to people who've experienced violent injury and also to their families. So there may be possibilities there to partner with you, Dorian, or to be able to make some of those clinical services available. Food access and really kind of making sure that people in the community have fresh, healthy, affordable food is another area where we've done some work with our community health partners within Advocate Aurora Health. So anyway, all that to say, there are a lot of possibilities, and we're really excited to be part of this and to think together about what the best ways are that we can help to support this vision of loving community that's being presented by and led by A Just Harvest. So Amy, what do you want to add about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, you did a great job, but just to kind of reinforce my work, I work closely with our faith community nurses and our community connectors around health and wellness, and really trying to not just kind of do these one-off programs, but really build capacity and agency within the community. So what does that look like? This summer, we're going to be doing a program where we're going to have a series of 3 kind of workshops that really build upon this intentional relationality and walking with people that are experiencing mental health issues, crisis, substance use. We're going to be also grounding them in mental health first aid, which gives some action to people that are experiencing mental health issues, and then some information about trauma and resilience and how to really become a trauma-informed, healing engaged congregation. So to really kind of build capacity where people can feel more comfortable walking with other people that are experiencing mental health issues, and kind of build out a cohort that so that we can continue to have some supports in place for people to learn and grow and build their toolkits, so that it's not just about kind of one day or a month, but really we're growing that congregational conversation and community around mental wellness, emotional well-being, and holistic health. Also within, just to talk a little bit about our community, our neighborhood model, you know, the kind of luxury that we have with having our faith community nurse and our community connector is they're really kind of immersed in the community. So we may be having a community dinner that is hosted by one of our churches, but our faith community nurse is there, our community connector is there talking with the community. So it's not just about food, but it's about connection. They might be able to talk to a family that's, yes, needs a meal, but also needs formula and diapers. You know, we had many people that were hesitant about getting their vaccines and hesitant about going to some of our clinics. So we decided to partner with Walgreens and another local hospital and bring the vaccines to the community dinners. And we had really good turnout where they could talk to our nurse. And so again, it's about building relationship, because we know that if people feel safe, if they feel heard, if they feel like they can trust people, that they're going to be more apt to you know, get involved, be a part of the work, and take advantage of some of these supports. So again, we talk about loving communities, and that's beautiful language, but it really is based in science. We know that nurturing relationships are one of the core protective factors for trauma and stress. So if we can really build these relationships, you know, I think that's again where the transformation can really happen. The other thing that we do a lot of, just really quick, is really building those relationships internally. You know, as a healthcare system, we have a lot of great programs on hypertension, diabetes. So we really try to build those relationships and be that bridge to bringing those to the communities. So that's just some of the kind of boots on the ground things that we're doing.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Kirsten. There's something that you said that I wanted to piggyback on, but thinking about that wraparound service and actually having things come from the community. We're hoping to have some resources this summer to do some community conversations, you know, community members talking to community members about seeing what it is we want in the community in terms of economic development, community development, but also around access to wellness as well. And then really seeing, again, a lot of the work that we've thought about and talked about has come from conversations with the people that we're engaging with. For example, you know, having childcare or care for or a dependent adult, right? Having a place to, if you can't come to work, if the person you're caring for, if their caregiver didn't show up, right? Or if your child is sick and can't go to school, then you can't come to work. And so what are the ways we can support? We're not going to have all the answers, right? But what are the ways we can support our community in a very holistic way, and making sure their family members have access to therapy, case management, and any kind of wellness that they need. So I'm going to ask Dr. Ringer to just share a little bit about our relationship with the Samuel Dwight Proctor Conference and some of how that is connected to our wellness work, and how mass incarceration work is connected to our wellness work.
Thank you, Marilyn. And just to kind of reiterate, at A Just Harvest, part of what is really rich about the work we do is that when we provide meals, that really is the starting point of a relationship and for our own understanding of what our communities need and the strengths that our communities have. And so we connect that to these different kinds of efforts and partnerships. And I'll just speak about two briefly. The Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference recognized that oftentimes faith communities don't have a progressive vision around economics. Right? So we really want to connect well-being and mental and spiritual well-being to economic security. So we really want to kind of connect those dots to thinking about what are the policies that really exasperates, right, economic suffering and contributes to poverty. Also, too, for the last 7 years, A Just Harvest has been on kind of the ground floor of ending money bond in Illinois. And as many of you know, money bond is a key driver of mass incarceration. Nationwide, we still have just over 500,000 people who are in jail for no other reason than they can't afford bail. The judge has literally said, you can go home, but without the monetary resources, they remain incarcerated. And one thing that's a real powerful connection to the work that we're doing into this conversation is that some of the pushback after the Pretrial Fairness Act was passed, some of the pushback was, well, without jails, people will not have access to medication. So you have an argument against any money bond that's rooted in mental health. And part of what our campaign was able to do is to shift the narrative to say, no, we should be investing in community mental health, and jails and prisons are not places for people to get well, right? So this has been a real powerful aspect of this work, is this opportunity to shift this narrative that somehow or another jails and prisons are agents of well-being. So.
Thank you, Dr. Ringer. Thank you. And that actually leads me to my first question that I want to pose to Dorian in particular, because I love how she uses language in a way to sort of send a message, right? The unacademy, right? Or I've seen her post things from decolonized therapy. So if you could say a little bit, Dorian, about some of that language and even what Dr. Ringer just said about narrative. Where's the connection for you there? And how do you see that as part of a wellness movement, so to speak?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, the unacademy kind of terminology, or even like using fly radical therapy, I think is a reclamation. So I appreciate poetry. I write for myself. It's a helpful form of expression. I'm no published poet or anything like that. It has been a processing space for me to use words. Words can be really powerful. And the words that we use when we think about mental health really can stick. You know, internalized thoughts are things that, turn into beliefs, and then we act on them. Depending on our situation, and we think about how that affects systems or institutionalized like laws, right? Words are law, right? And when it's law, that means we act upon it or don't act upon it. So it's powerful, like that powerful. So when creating something to welcome people that perhaps have not typically been a part of a mental health journey, or maybe thought that they couldn't be a part of a mental health journey, it is important to captivate an audience. So radical therapy is something that was created by mostly white psychiatrists in the 70s. And for me, it's adding fly in front of it really is a reclamation of radical therapy for the global majority of people like myself and like you all, of who have, had the most marginalized experience in this country. Welcome how fly we are, how beautiful we are, how all of these lies about how we are and stereotypes and all these things and layered things, but also how, westernized, the United States, has really used the global majority culture, tradition, to basically repackage and sell it back to us, right? So how do we reclaim some of these things that are rooted in our own well-being and history and knowledge, and bring it back to ourselves in a way that is about who we are? And so the Unacademy is really about unlearning unhealthy, unwelcoming, unwell generational patterns that we have had embedded in our families, in our societies, in our communities, and that is going to take some time to challenge and unlearn some of these things. So that's how important words are. And for many people who are in the spiritual, very rooted in faith, they know how powerful words and prayer can be. When you're speaking to your higher being, how powerful that is. So beyond, speaking to your ancestors and welcoming them in, these are, we can't underestimate the power of words, and what they can do to shift society. Yeah, all that.
Thank you.
Sure.
And so that makes me want to ask Kirsten, thinking about narrative and even the importance of word. And I know that Aurora's advocate side of it is faith-based advocate, meaning protector, someone who cares for and has somebody's back, right? Our communities don't trust the healthcare system, though, no matter what your name is. So what's the narrative? And I kind of see it in some of the things you talked about, the neighborhood project and the love asset mapping. So I see some intentional use of language and narrative to address that. But help me understand how we could further earn the trust of the community around wellness before you become sick, and really helping folks understand Advocate Aurora's commitment to healthcare, not sick care, right? And I know there's a tension there. So
yeah, well, actually, I will Advocate Aurora Health over the last, I would say, in 5 years and probably 3 years in particular, has made some pretty radical shifts, I think, in our commitments around community health. I'm actually pretty proud of where we are now. We have, as a system, a community strategy that prioritizes our work around health equity, so that any of our community-facing work is supposed to be focused on promoting health equity and addressing these social conditions that impact health. Sort of a light bulb went off in not only for Advocate, but in healthcare organizations in general around the country. The light bulb finally went off to say, oh, what people experience where they live is impacting their health outcomes. And health outcomes are important to us because that's what we're accountable for. So we need to start getting where where people live. And so, we've prioritized housing, we've prioritized community safety, we prioritized food access, workforce development, and access to both primary care and also to mental health care as areas where we know there needs to be more investment on the part of our organization into community. So, 3 years out of 100 years, we're still coming along, but the commitment is there, and I think the language is there in a way that it hasn't been before. Our work in terms of faith-based work, which is sort of where we live, has been on this track for a long time, and I think have been present in community, I hope in a way that feels respectful, where we really do base what we do on our relationships with people in community and follow the lead and really work collaboratively and in partnership. We created in 2009 the Center for Faith and Community Health Transformation, along with other partners, again, not just on our own, but with other partners, as a, an early model of how healthcare and other organizations could come together to work hand in hand with faith communities and people of faith around these, the social issues and the experience that people have in their communities. So I think, through the center, through some of our neighborhood work, in terms of our faith and health partnership work, that's what we've tried to do anyway, and have been very open to the prophetic voice of people like yourself, Marilyn, like you, Dorian, like, you, Dr. Ringer, other, all of the people that we work with. One of the great things about being in the community is that we are constantly called by our prophetic voices and our collaborators to really kind of think about things in a different way and see what we can do. So anyway, I don't know if that really answers your question, Marilyn, but
Yes. Thank you. I have one more question, and then we're going to just see if others have any questions. And I heard the word resilience, and I don't think it came. I'm gonna push a little bit, okay? I don't think it came from any people of color when I heard it, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because lately, resilience has been a triggering word for many. And it's so funny because I wrote this thank you letter in 2021. I'm pretty sure it was 2021. And I used a quote from Zora Neale Hurston. And I said, if you are silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. Then I start with a thank you for your generous support. And then the second paragraph says, we can no longer allow the strength and resilience of our community to be weaponized by those unwilling to disrupt the status quo. We cannot look away when it gets uncomfortable or hard. Accompanying one another as we share stories and a willingness to rend our hearts open is often the first step towards healing. I wrote that as someone who was tired of being resilient, as someone who found herself on antidepressants in the middle of COVID, as someone who was experiencing a hard time providing any more emotional labor than it was absolutely necessary. And here is someone who has resources. I have a PPO. I have, clergy friends. I have therapist friends. I have resources. And all I could imagine was, if I am experiencing this, I could only begin to this much imagine someone with zero resources, what they might be feeling, right? And it just got exhausting. And I got pushback. I got pushback from a donor around, was I trying to start a race war? And what's up with these words and these kinds of things? And I kind of laughed it off. And but that was over a year ago. And more, I just had a conversation with another person of color, a Black woman, who was having this conversation in her workplace because folk weren't quite getting it. I am someone who has been in awe, and I've written about it, of the resilience of my community, the fact that we're still here, the fact that folks from the African diaspora still exist, right? Given all the things. But I'm also at a point where I'm like, stop hurting us in the first place. I think we've proven how much we can take. And we ain't got to prove nothing else. It's enough. And so I want to open up the conversation around resilience, and how we can begin, as folks who are committed to well-being, to not rely on the harmed being resilient. So I don't know who wants to go first, and I'm gonna just leave it there if we need a minute. Anyone who wants to talk about that or respond to my rambling, you're welcome. And in the meantime, also, please, if there are any questions from anyone else, put them in the chat or the Q&A so we can hear from our folks.
I just want to share, I have a visceral response to what you're saying, and have to take deep breaths, because as a therapist, and I'll just speak on the profession, you know, majority of the folks that I see are, I'm seeing them because they were hurt. They're hurting by other folks that hurt them. And that word resilience, I mean, it's a side effect of a survival response that is rooted in trauma and oppression. And it's again, like, this is a matter of fact, but again, we shouldn't. What would happen? What would happen if we lived in a world where we were treated and uplifted and given equitable access? What would happen? So I hear when you say that, and I'm reminded of why it's so important to create safe communities. I live in somewhat of a bubble. I don't interact with, like, police, for example. I don't interact much with people who hold high power privilege. And I'm in peace when I interact with my safe space. And then when I intersect, there's discomfort for me, and that's real. But it's so important that we are able to have these kind of dialogues, because that's how we grow. So I just wanted to share that thought, or those thoughts.
Thank you, Dorian. Anyone else?
Looks like I can jump in, but it looked like Dr. Ringer, you were ready to say something.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question for me, because it's very similar to in religious communities, spiritual communities, the debates around suffering. Right? And for me, I draw a distinction between traditions that cultivate our capacity for resilience to deal with life's challenges. That's one thing. But prescribing resilience as a response to injustice and oppression is something very different. And so for me, it's maintaining a real clarity around that distinction, and especially as it relates to, issues of public policy. When I see politicians wanting to develop resilience programs for young people, rather than addressing the inequities and injustices young people are facing, then we've gone off in the wrong direction. So that's kind of how I enter into that conversation around resilience.
Yes. Where do the resources come? At what point do the resources come in? And at what point are we willing to disrupt, the system, and make sure that the resources go where they need to be prior to the harm being inflicted? Yes, thank you. Anyone else want to speak to that, or if there are other questions? Oh, Kirsten, I'm sorry, you wanted to speak to it.
Yeah, this thing of language is really tricky. And we've wrestled in this trauma-informed congregations network a lot with language, because even using the word trauma it's just not the right word to use sometimes. And for some people, and for other people, it is really important to use that word, to name. So, we've wrestled with it. And I think, unfortunately, probably often just default to throwing those words around without really kind of thinking about them. But one of the kind of the concepts that we've worked with some, and I'd love people's thinking about this as well, is the idea that there's something important that happens where hurt and hope intersect. And that it's really important to hold those two things together. that it's important that we talk about the hurt, that we name it, that we feel it, that we sit in it, and that we don't stay there, that we also at the same time meet the hope that's in us, the power that's in us, the strength that's in us, the healing potential and possibility that's there in us that we carry. And I think that's part of what you were describing, Manon, in your beautiful voice art that you shared. You know, that you shared that intersection of hurt and hope in your poem, in your piece, and that it's there at that intersection that we really find moral imagination, where we really find spirit power, where we really find love. And so, you know, how do we sit in both of those and bring both of those together, not only in our own individual selves, but also in our congregations, in our whole communities. How do we name and see both of those at the same time, and connect with the power that's there in that intersection? So, and I honestly hope to be in practice. I love, Manon, you invited us. We don't have to get it perfect, but that we practice, to be in continued practice around language and what it means and what it does, you know, what our language does to each other. So.
Amen. 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 Thank you. We have a question in the chat from Reverend Dr. Terrell Murph. He's asking how the Chicago Metropolitan Association, which is part of the Illinois Conference of the United Church of Christ, how they can promote and become actively involved in a real sense. So a couple things. One, I know that these wellness opportunities are available for your own congregation as well, but we're also always looking for volunteers, and even if you know folks who want to provide a service that they might have, whether they're therapists or nurses or anything like that. If you want to get involved in the pretrial fairness work, we have to protect. The act got passed, but now they're trying to rip it apart. And so we're looking for the faith voice to bring to that. So if you see a petition, sign it and share it, and make sure we're bringing our voices to that. But there's lots of ways to really be involved as the CMA in the work that we're doing around wellness. And having these types of conversations, right? Having these types of conversations where we're understanding that, you know, when we think about, especially those of us who are from the Christian tradition, understanding a call to healing, right? Understanding that when Jesus talked about wholeness, it had to do with healing holistically, you know, and it meant healing the system, and it meant healing communities too, and that there was no healing of the individual outside of healing community and disrupting systems. And so keeping those things in mind as we seek to be faithful in these times is a way for the CMA to get actively involved. Was there another question?
I just wanted to add a little bit of commentary to that, to the conversation surrounding resilience. Just kind of as I was listening to others and all of your thoughtfulness and wisdom. And I think, Dr. Marilyn, I can also I empathize with that experience of, you know, sort of COVID. I mean, and for all of us, it was difficult, but also just sort of just experiencing another level of just being tired and exhausted and worn down, and dealing with mental health issues, you know, when I'm usually always the one kind of, you know, told to be strong, and, you know, like the strong Black woman, you know, and how you know, we can just so subconsciously live into that trope, that we don't even sort of like recognize that it is harming us. And so I've been kind of, you know, embracing this idea of of actually giving myself permission to fall apart, you know? So instead of trying to be strong, I've been actually just giving myself permission to fall apart. And I think that, you know, like for people who have been wounded and who are over and over affected by systemic inequities that touch down into their personal lives, who always have to be strong, you know, who always have to pull it together and find a way to make it work. That sometimes, you know, like the root of healing is actually falling apart and having permission for those things to unravel, but then to be held, right? Like in a container, um, to be held and to have folks there who are willing to say, you know what, this falling apart is okay. And I'm here with you in this mess. I'm going to walk alongside you as we learn or as we practice wholeness. And so, yeah, and so it's a different way of thinking. You know, it's the upside down kingdom, Dr. Marilyn, as you were quoting.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We want to make sure that we leave enough time. We want folks to stay and listen to Manon's closing gift to us. But before we do, we're going to hear a couple of announcements. But before we go to the announcements, I want to take an opportunity to say thank you. Thank you, thank you to all of our wonderful partners here on this webinar today for this conversation. It is just the beginning of a conversation. We will continue to have this conversation as we seek to be faithful to our communities and to be folks who are turning the kingdom upside down and speaking and creating wellness in our communities, on our block, in our homes, and in our own hearts. Amen. So thank you to each and every one of you for your brilliance, for your beauty, for your commitment. And we are looking forward to all the work that we are going to do together. And so Jeremiah is going to come on and bring some announcements. And from there, we're going to listen to Manon. So please don't sign off until you have heard Manon. If you didn't hear her earlier, it is a gift to us. She is an international poet and a gift to us. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm so glad to be here with you all and be able to take in and really listen and dive into what everybody was saying. It was definitely a phenomenal conversation today. I don't want to take up too much time. I just am here to bring awareness for a really exciting event that A Just Harvest is hosting that I want everybody to mark on their calendars. It's our annual 5K run, walk, and community wellness celebration. That will be on June 4th. Like I said, we are really excited about it. It's going to be in person, so we're really excited to be able to gather again and be able to run, walk, stroll, do whatever you want, be leisure, but come out and have fun with us, and then afterwards be able to just enjoy a time of food, fun, and fellowship. I believe we're going to have a DJ. But kind of have like a block party community wellness celebration out there as well. So definitely make plans. Like I said, it's going to be on June 4th. The race itself commences at 9 a.m. I'm actually in the chat going to put the link to our website where you can kind of go see some more information, sign up if you want to run, get some information if you want to be a sponsor. But yeah, like I said, we're looking forward to each and every one of you joining us for our like I said, annual 5K run walk, and we're so excited for it to be in person this year. So we definitely would love for each and every one of you to come out and be a part of it with us and support the work that we're doing, and also be on the lookout for the other June events that we have coming up. So we're really excited for all the things that all the events that we have in store.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And let me just add one more thing to that I almost forgot, and I mentioned it earlier. It is my 20th anniversary. And so we are building on that. And so starting with the 5K and some other events that'll be happening, and also with our annual event in October and our end of year appeal, we will be celebrating my 20th anniversary by reaching a $200,000 potential match that we have that is dedicated to the wellness work. And so we have a potential $200,000 match. And so it's not no regular fundraiser out here this year, y'all. It's going to be really exciting and really a way to get folks to invest and take on the vision and make it their own. And we're so excited about that. So please, please, please sign up for the 5K. Jeremiah is going to send out lots of nice information, but be looking out over the summer and into the fall. We're going to have lots of ways to celebrate, to conspire, and to do some subversive good work. Good work. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Manon? Manon?
Thank you. Thank you so much. So as we've been talking about the power of relationships, and I would like to just end our beautiful conversation today with a narrative spoken word poem that came from a personal experience, one of the most salient and transformative relationships that changed me happened as I was mentoring a African-American young lady some years ago. And so when I first started working with this young lady, and I thought, oh, she's a, she's a Black woman, we're gonna get along. And I came to the mentoring relationship with a lot of hopes and expectations, but also kind of some ignorance behind some of the systemic injustices and inequities that she was facing. And I thought, oh, just because she's a Black woman, it's like I'm gonna understand. And so walking alongside her really, really changed me, and it even showed me my own blind spots. And it is only in the power of walking with and alongside other people we become transformed. And so there was a situation where she had just become housed after being homeless for several years. And she called me at the job that I was working at, and she asked me to deliver, or she asked me to send her some food. And so I was at work and I couldn't leave. So I was trying different food places in her area. I tried a pizza place, I tried a deli, and no one would deliver to her. And I could not understand why. And I could not get food to her. But I had never had that happen where that there were certain areas inside of my city that folks just refused to deliver to, and that you could, and so she could not get food, and she had a broken leg. And so there was a helplessness in that situation, but it opened my eyes in a lot of different ways. And we walked together over the next couple of years. And what it taught me is that the more that I walked alongside her, the less that I othered her. The less I became her and she became me. And I saw our freedom as being bound together. And so this poem is called Undeliverable, and it is based on that experience and the power of relationships. It was a text that I had never seen before. My screen lit up with longing words that stretched across my yawn of mid-afternoon fog and fullness. Having eaten from a passing restaurant of my choice and exchanged debit card with smile without second thought or gratitude for my right to be fed. I'm hungry. Can you bring me food? Her text read. Yes, I replied without hesitation. Send me your address. My fingers eager to dial up rescue, first phoned a pizzeria nearby. They asked my name, my order, then my delivery location. When they replied, "I'm sorry, ma'am, we do not deliver there." Delayed but not denied. The second, a deli, only 10 blocks from where her government housing low-income project had set. Certain that I had struck gold, I mindlessly spat out a rout of numbers when they too said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, we will not deliver there." My mind blanked, my thoughts jammed in traffic. "Unfortunately, you are in a dead zone. No one will deliver there," the voice said on the other side of the phone. My mind blanked. My thoughts stood still in traffic as I imagined her young, hungry, inside of the white walls of her first and only stable apartment after being homeless the better part of her life. But suddenly, she had become labeled because of where she had landed. You know the story, the hooded stranger homogenized with danger. I arm wrestled the manager in her defense and said, "Sir, she has a broken leg, but she will hobble down the street to meet you if that is what it takes to be fed," not realizing that she had already been cast into an invisible one that disappeared her into a black hole, split, wounded on the side, labeled opposite, access denied, unable to receive the good in life, undeliverable, access denied, unable to receive the good in life, undeliverable, access denied, unable to receive the good in life, undeliverable. And in that moment, my mentoring skills could not save her when all she was wanting was a hot meal. You see, my mother had taught me never to waste, but I never thought more about those who didn't have enough to waste in the first place. I bled tears. Somebody had found us out, sliced our love by a distance of degrees and said, "You belong here and you don't. You will be educated and you won't. You deserve the good life and you deserve the hood life." Maslow's hierarchy bottomed out and turned upside down without any regard, even though you told her that she could move up if she just works hard. And yet she sits inside of the white walls of her first and only stable apartment after being homeless the better parts of her life, looking into the mirror alone. And I am her and she is me, and we are both but an equal dance away from the same circumstance, like the common cords that cut us away at birth are cloth. And when she is turned away, it is myself staring out from the other side of that mirror, struggling to untether her hands and her feet, struggling to untether her hands and her feet, saying, "Darling, darling, darling, don't believe them. You can be anything you want to be." Because what we both now know is that it is up to all of us to deliver one another.
Amen, amen, and Ashe. I think we can unmute and do some snaps. Yes, 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 yes. Have a beautiful day, everyone. We look forward to the rest of 2022 with you. We look forward to celebrating with you, and we look forward to continuing on this journey towards wellness with you. Have a beautiful day.
You too.